All right, let's go ahead and get started. So today we are focused on a day in the life of a real estate agent, and not just a real estate agent, but a successful real estate agent. Let's be very, very clear on that. As always, we know that a successful agent does two things every day. They grow their business and they run their business. They grow their business through lead generation for buyers and sellers. Once they find someone who's interested in selling their home, then they go on listing appointments and make listing presentations to take listing agreements. When they find people who are looking to buy, they do buyer consultations to get buyer brokerage agreements. And then they preview real estate every day on the MLS and in person so that they know what's going on in the community. They know what's happening on a local market level so that they can share that with buyers and sellers to make a right decision. Once you actually do have business where you are working with buyers and sellers, then number one, we have to market those sellers' listings. When we get buyers, we have to work with buyers to help them show homes. Once we get to that place, we then need to negotiate the terms of a contract. Once we are under contract, we then help them deal with all the transaction management from contract to close. In addition to that, we work with our vendor partners, our title companies, our lenders, our home inspectors, photographers, stagers, all the individuals that help us close difficult transactions every day. We set goals for ourselves, for our business, and for our future. We are as risk averse as possible by working with our compliance officers, as well as our broker resource and our broker of record to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. And then we attend trainings just like Ignite. And more importantly, we get coaching to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to the highest level. And then lastly, we manage our money so that we can grow our wealth. So understanding this, people do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. I'm curious, go ahead in the chat box and give me just kind of a breakdown of what you think that this quote means, or what this quote means to you. So I'll read it again for those of you that might not be right on the screen. People do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. What does that mean to you? Hard work determines a person's success. Thank you, Kelly. Other Kelly, it's the actions that create the outcomes. Absolutely. And so understanding this is to what both of you said, right? Both hard work and then making sure that we're doing hard work in the right activities, that is what's going to decide our futures. What are the actions that we're doing today or that we've been doing for the last 2 weeks that are helping us? And what are the habits and activities that we're doing that are hurting us to get closer to the future that we want to have? So please always keep that in mind that works both ways, in a positive or negative. So this is an example of kind of a perfect schedule, if you will, or one idea of a perfect schedule. So for me, I do this a little bit earlier, but absolutely it follows the same pattern. So imagine that for us, we would do this slightly different. We would do from 8 a.m. to 8:30. We would probably spend doing script practice. From 8:30 until 9, you're watching Power Up. You're in the Reedy and Red show. You're getting whatever information. If you're not there, maybe you're on YouTube watching a video, or you're listening to a podcast, something to get you motivated. And then from 9 until noon, we are focused on doing our daily success habits, the lead generation, the lead follow-up, the writing the note cards, updating the database. From 12 to 12:30, we're having lunch because there's no reason that you need an hour for lunch, especially if you have it structured. Now, of course, if you're going to lunch and meeting a client or whatever, then of course that's kind of a business activity mixed in with lunch, of course. Then from 12:30 to 2:30, you're running the business activities. You're working on marketing your listings. You're negotiating contracts. You're putting out fires. You're attending trainings, doing whatever it is that you need to do. From 2:30 to 4:30, you are previewing property or you're going on appointments, making seller presentations to sellers or meeting with clients to help them with that. And then from 4:30 to 5:30, you're reviewing your calendar and making sure that you have a success list for tomorrow. And then from 5:30 into the evening, you are spending time with family. Now, of course, people go, well, Michael, this doesn't work because my clients want to show in the evening. I understand. And yet that's not every single day. So building a structure around this is also why we talk about taking seller listings often so that we can plan to be meeting with someone earlier in the afternoon so that we can have our time together. Now, for anyone who has a challenge with that, realize that people treat you the way that you tell them or you train them to treat you. And so I don't know about you, but if I had a problem with my tooth, I would have to schedule with my dentist and make sure that I can go and see the dentist when the dentist was available. If I had a legal challenge that I needed an attorney to help me with, the attorney's not going to meet me at 7:30 at night. I'm going to have to make arrangements to meet with the attorney. And the point of this is that as human beings, we will do what we're told. And so what's so important about this is realizing that you control your schedule. You have the ability to make the same, if not more money than most attorneys or doctors in this business. And so understanding that is, if they get to run their schedule as structured as they do, why couldn't I run my schedule as structured as I'd like to, so that I have dedicated time with family? And so it's really when you change your mindset around setting appointments in the afternoon as opposed to late in the evening, you have way more control of your life. So understanding and looking at what are my weekly and daily objectives. So part of that is to use a tool that we have that's called the 411. The 411 is to set your weekly goals. So it actually breaks down to 1 year, 1 month, and then 4 weeks. And so the idea there is, what can I do this week that's going to get me on track to my monthly goal, that's going to get me on track to my yearly goal? And you do that every week. And so what is it that I can do over the course of the next month that's going to get me to my goal? Maybe that's a certain amount of appointments. Maybe it's a certain amount of conversations. Maybe it's a certain amount of open houses. Maybe it's attending a training that's going to happen on the third Thursday of the month that you really feel like that contract class is going to make you a better negotiator or a stronger agent to help your clients. It's from that perspective that you can actually work through this very quickly and make sure that you are not just doing a to-do list, but you're doing a half to-do list. These are the things that are going to be also known as a success list, right? So you have to commit to the 80-20 principle. So the 80-20 principle is actually a very interesting thing. It was founded by Wilfredo Pareto, who was an Italian philosopher who was living in England. And what he discovered was, well, he was actually there discovering the land ownership in the United Kingdom. So he discovered that about 20% of the population, the lords, owned about 80% of the land. And so then conversely, 80% of the population only owned about 20% of the land. And then he also found this to happen in his garden. So his garden is actually one where he was growing peas, split peas, and he realized that only about 20% of his split peas were yielding 80% of the crop. And so then therefore, 80% of the crop was only then yielding the remaining 20%. We took this even further. And actually, there were some people that wanted to rechange this from the Pareto principle and name it the Durand principle, because there was a gentleman by the name of Durand who worked for General Electric. And as an engineer, he found that about 80% of their problems could have been isolated to about 20% of the issues. Also found that about 20% of the total products that were produced by General Electric were yielding about 80% of the total revenues for the company. And so it really was Durand that brought it to America and really took the 80-20 principle to a whole new level. And I know that that's a fun fact that none of you really cared about, but the point here is that this is a principle. It's something that can be found in your life, it can be found in other people's lives. And so there is a pattern of predictable imbalance in life, and it's called the 80-20 principle. It's about 20% of the activities that we do that we refer to as our big rocks are going to yield 80% of our results. You can make more money, you can spend more time with family, and you can be more organized because you don't have to do all the things all of the time. You could be focused on doing the 20% things so that you can spend the rest of your time. And this is one of the biggest differentials between, say, someone like, no disrespect, but someone who has a philosophy like Grant Cardone versus someone like Gary Keller. Well, first and foremost, Gary Keller is a billionaire and Grant Cardone is not. Secondly, is that Gary Keller will tell you that he wants to work on the most important things until they're done, and then he wants to go and live his life, which is very different than what some people kind of preach of this idea of rise and grind, and you should work 14 or 16 hours a day every single day in order for you to be wildly successful. And it's not just about working hard, because we know plenty of hard workers that do not have a lot of wealth. We have to understand that it's about doing the right types of work, those big rocks. Another thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that it's a SMART goal. So is it something that is specific? Is it measurable? Is it action oriented? Is it realistic? And is it time bound? And so I will say that we don't actually like the word realistic. Your goals are going to be realistic if you're willing to do the activities to get there, no matter what it is. You want to do $100 million this year. Fantastic. Well, are you willing to do the activities to yield $100 million in volume? If the answer is no, then it's not going to be realistic. Realistic for me also is it something that I have control over? So oftentimes when I'm coaching people, one of the questions that I ask are, what are 3 things that you can do this next week between now and the next time that we speak that's going to feel like a big home run for you this week? And so some people will say, well, I want to get my buyers under contract. Okay. Well, is that specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Well, we'll know they're either under contract or not in a week's time. Is it action oriented? Not really. I mean, the buyers have to take action. You might have to show them property, but you actually don't have say on whether or not they're going to buy a particular property. So now is when it starts to get a little wonky. Is it realistic? Well, do you have 100% control of whether or not it's going to happen this next week? The answer is no. And so that's why it might be a really great outcome, but it might not necessarily be a great goal because of the fact that we don't have control. Now, that is of those one particular buyers. Now, is it realistic to say that you want to get a buyer under contract this week? Well, it depends. How many A buyers do you have in your pipeline? If I only have one, I might not have a choice. Also, if that one buyer is saying that they really don't have to make a move and that they're thinking about buying something between now and August, the likelihood of me getting them under contract this week might not be realistic. So we want to be very intentional by setting SMART goals around our business. One of which might be that I want to make 50 contacts, right? If I'm making 10 contacts a day, I want to make 50 contacts in this time this week. Okay, so is it specific? Yes, it's 50. Is it measurable? Yes. What was my goal? 50. What was my actual? We'll find out. Is it action oriented? Absolutely. I have to pick up the phone. I have to send text messages. I have to do the activities that I have 100% control over. Do I have control of whether or not I speak to 50 people? And the answer, of course, is yes. Is it realistic? Absolutely. By chunking it down, by having 10 conversations a day, I will probably exceed my goal. And is it time bound? Yes, I need to have 50 contacts done between now and next week, right? And so we're going to translate our weekly goals into daily objectives that could be followed by doing a SMART plan. So time blocking. How many of you use a calendar, whether it is a Google Calendar, iCal, your week at a glance, whatever it is. And of those of you that do use a calendar, do you have your big rocks on your calendar? So do you have your lead generation on your calendar? Do you have your appointment times on your calendar? Do you have some of those activities that are there? What does your calendar look like right now? So go ahead in the chat box and tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you using your calendar and how time blocked is your calendar? Because for some of us, we have a really pretty calendar where we've time blocked everything. And yet if we were to look at it, we would say, probably it's really pretty, but I actually don't follow it. So the question is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that you follow it religiously, how well do you follow your calendar? And also, how time blocked is your calendar? Go ahead and put that in the chat box for me, please. While you're doing that, I'm actually going to pull up my calendar. Please don't think just because I'm pulling my calendar up that you don't have to talk in the chat box. So Kelly said that my calendar is pretty empty at the moment, but when I've got lots going on, I'm about an 8. Okay, so I want to challenge you, Kelly, that your calendar should not be empty because you want to time block the things that you expect to get done that day anyway, right? So it's not, the calendar should be proactive, not reactive. And oftentimes we use the calendar as a reactive tool. So I just want to clarify on that. But looking forward to you being at an 8+ a lot of the time. Okay, anyone else? Let's look at your calendar. Tell me, how effective are you using it and how much do you actually follow your calendar? All right, so if you were to look, Linda says 5 need to be more effective. Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to look at my calendar, you can see that I have things that start at 7:30 in the morning. I also leave opportunities. So you'll see that there's coaching opportunities. Well, if I don't have an appointment, then that's where I have coaching opportunity until I fill in that time. At 8:10 every morning, I have a staff call. After that, we have Power Up with Reedy and Red at 8:30. Then, of course, during the time of Ignite, I'm in Ignite from 9 until about 12:30, depending on the calendar. We have some things that are also here. So my one-on-one coaching appointment with Rachel is at 1 o'clock. I do my group coaching on Tuesdays. The second Wednesday of every month, or the third Wednesday of every month, we have our productivity committee meeting. I've got Bold on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've got some group coaching things that are around. And then you'll notice that I have coaching opportunities. This would be where on your calendar you would put listing appointments, or you would put appointment opportunities. And then of course from 6 o'clock until about 8 o'clock, I have my 20% for my other 2 businesses. So am I spending the time Monday through Thursday to make sure that I'm still working on the 20% on the other businesses so that they don't fall? And then I have a goal of being in bed by 9 p.m. every evening so that I can read for about an hour. And that gives me 30 minutes to an hour without screen time so that I can fall asleep, not be all ramped up by watching something or reading something on my iPad. So it's about reducing my screen time, and it's about having a commitment to reading every single night at this time. I read elsewhere, but obviously having those times as well. And then if you look on Friday, like today, you can see that I have a very tight schedule from Ignite until about 3:30, where I'm going to be able to go to the bathroom. And then I have my coaching appointment with my MAPS coach at 4. And so the structure here is I know exactly what my day is going to look like. I don't have any question. If someone was to say to me, when am I going to be able to get on your calendar? We can look at them, right? And so even with that, and I don't catch everything all the time, is having the opportunity to go, I have an opening and I know that I have one other person that I need to put on my calendar today for a coaching appointment. Where can I put her? Well, I can either put her at 3:30 or I can put her at 4:30. That's for me to decide. And so the structure, if you were an agent, this would look like script practice at 8 a.m. It would look at like power up at 8:30. It would look like with your time here from 9 until noon being in this with me for Ignite, maybe taking lunch at noon, coming back at 12:30. Then at 1 o'clock, maybe you're scheduling appointments for tomorrow. You're putting pre-listing packets together. You are putting out fires, negotiating contracts, checking your emails, whatever it might be. 2 o'clock, you'd be scheduling showings maybe for the next day. You could be attending a class. You could be doing some of those things. And then from 3 o'clock on, maybe in your calendar, it is scheduling appointments. So maybe I'll have an appointment at 3 o'clock. I'll have an appointment at 4:30 slot, and then I'll have an appointment slot at 5:30 with the intention for me that I'm not going to fill that 5:30 slot every day so that I can be home with my family on most evenings. And then of course have maybe a half day on Saturday, or if you're committed to doing an open house, whatever it might look like. It depends on you and your structure on a successful day. So I'm curious, how different does my calendar look than yours? And what are some things that you like about having a structured calendar like this? Now, I know that there are some of you on here that go, there's no way that I would ever want to be that structured. That just drives me insane. I don't feel liberated at all. And funnily enough, I feel more liberated when I know my structure, because I'm 100% committed when it's on my calendar. And when it's not on my calendar, then I can go and do whatever I want to do. If I don't have any appointments on Thursday after 4, then I can take the rest of the day off because I've worked and I've put in for a very successful week. So what are some some takeaways from this calendar for you? So Kelly says that she thinks that it will keep you more organized. Absolutely. What else? Do you forget things when you have a calendar like this? Now, my problem is the bold law that if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. So if it's not there, that's where I'm having a problem, because I choose to use my calendar as my brain dump. And so if I forget to put someone on my calendar or forget to put something on my calendar, I will absolutely not be there for it because it wasn't there. Kelly says, I think having a calendar and knowing what you should be working on will help with productivity. Absolutely. If I don't time block, I'm working on a lot of things and I'm having a challenge because I haven't time blocked yet to incorporate some of those other things into my day. One of which is I have built out an outline and I'm starting to write a book. And as you can see, there is nowhere on my calendar this week that says writing for book or thinking about book or anything about the book. And so therefore, if you were to ask me, what did I get done this week for the book? The answer is absolutely nothing. The last thing that I did was on Sunday morning. I spent about 3 hours putting some things together and just kind of building out an outline for that book. But yet, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I haven't put it there, and so therefore I haven't worked on it. That's why it's so important, to Kelly's point, that by having it on the calendar and knowing what you should be doing, and not just should be doing it, but when you should be doing it, is going to say, oh yeah, you know what, I need to not go do that thing at 3 o'clock today because I told myself that that was the time that I would dedicate towards building my postcard or working on an email draft or building out some content for my social media, whatever it might be. It's so important that it's on your calendar so that you can have those effectively. So we have to be accountable. This is why coaching is so important, because self-discipline or self-accountability is a mirage. We think it's there. It looks like you can touch it. You get close to it and you realize, nope, not at all. Am I going to push myself harder in the gym if I'm by myself? Or am I going to push myself harder in the gym when I've hired a personal trainer who's standing over me, who's encouraging me, and is holding me to a certain standard? And I think we all know that the answer is that Micheal will absolutely tap out at about 80% if someone wasn't there standing over me, barking at me. And that is the point of accountability, because having someone else take a stand for the goals that you've set. Remember, that personal trainer, just like a coach, is holding a mirror up to you and said, you wanted to lose weight. You wanted to get healthy. You told me that this is what you wanted. I'm just here to make sure that you do what you said you want to do. Well, that's exactly my job. You said that you wanted this income. You said that you wanted to be able to do this. You said that you wanted to be able to go on this trip or build this trust for your family or provide this certain lifestyle that you wanted for yourself and your family. You said you wanted this. I'm just here to make sure that you do the activities that you wanted to do. So we have to set goals first and foremost. Then we have to do the key activities. Do not mistake movement for achievement. We have to do the activities that will actually affect our business, those top 20%. We need to measure our results. How am I doing set to the activities that I wanted to do? Is this the right activity for me to be doing, or should I be doing something else? A perfect example of this is I should be making 50 calls a week, okay? So if I make 50 calls to people I don't know, I will probably set one appointment, like an expired or for sale by owner. But if I make 50 calls to my sphere of influence, people that I do know, I might average 3 to 5 referrals. And so by measuring the results, I'm already noticing that it would be far more effective for me to call 50 people that I do know to get better results than to call 50 people that I don't know. And so I'm able to evaluate the process on which is better and then make adjustments so that next week I'm committed to calling 50 people I do know. And maybe because I'm still getting great results from the expireds and the for sale by owners, I might still throw in an additional 25 people that I don't know, or maybe an additional 50 people that I don't know, because I don't have a lot of business right now. And quite frankly, if I don't have a lot of business, then the only thing that I should be doing is lead generating. And that I'm speaking to many of you on here. If you do not have a listing, if you do not have an active buyer that is an A buyer, then when you are not in Ignite, you should be spending all of your remaining time for your business on creating leads. It doesn't matter how pretty your website is. It doesn't matter how great your business cards are. It doesn't matter how much stuff you're putting on your Instagram. If no one is doing business with you, you do not have a business. And that's why it's so important that we focus on the lead generation aspect, because I see so many, not so many, I've seen many people in my coaching program that come through, they want to build the perfect image. They spend thousands of dollars building this perfect image and they don't call anybody. And then in a year's time, they leave real estate. And so that's where accountability comes from. You have to be accountable in your attitude and understand that accountability is an attitude and an approach. Accountability is a tool for changing, achieving results. So actually knowing that I don't like the outcome that I have, well, then be accountable to changing it and you will get new results. And then understand that accountability is a dynamic cycle, that it's not a static concept. So we constantly run through this particular diagram on a weekly basis when you are in coaching. What was the goal? How did you do? How does that make you feel? What are we going to do moving forward, right? That is a consultative coaching approach. I could literally do that and nothing else with my coaching clients, and you would be so much further along than if you were not running yourself through that filter. What was the goal? What was the result? How does that make me feel? What's the goal moving forward, right? So sharing your goals is also really important. If no one knows what your goals are, then you're the only person to let yourself down. And that's hard, but understanding that. If you have children under the age of 10, you already know, you tell them that you're going to do something, they're going to hold you accountable to it. If you don't have someone under the age of 10, I'm sure that there's someone on here that will absolutely lend one of their kids for you to tell them that if you hit your goal, you'll take them to Disney. I'm sure that they would love that. But the idea here is that you need to share your goals. What are your long, medium, and short-term goals? You need to know that for yourself. You also need to know that and share that with the people that are around you. If you want to go to Istanbul, if you want to go to see the Taj Mahal, if you said that you always wanted to go to a trip to Alaska, if you wanted to retire with a certain amount of money in the bank by a certain time, fantastic. Whatever the goals are, short-term, medium, and long-term goals, what we refer to as someday goals, that's one of the greatest things that you can actually do is, what is my someday goal? What's that far-reaching goal that I have for myself? And then what's my 5-year goal? What's my 3-year goal? What's my 1-year goal? And then the question is, what is the activity that I can do, or what can I do within the next 5 years to get me to my someday goal? What can I do within the next 3 years to get me on track for my 5-year goal, to get me on track for my someday goal? What is it that I can do this year that's going to put me on track to achieve my 3-year goal, my 5-year goal, and my someday goal? What is it that I can do this month to be on track to hit my yearly goal so that I can hit my 3-year goal, my 5-year goal, my someday goal? What's the activity that I can do this week that's going to get me on track to hit my monthly goal, to hit my yearly goal, to hit my 3-year goal, my 5-year goal, my someday goal? What's the activity that I can do today, or activities that I can do today to get me towards my monthly goal, or to my weekly goal, to my monthly goal, to my yearly goal, to my 3-year, my 5-year, my someday goal? And what is it that I can do right now to get me to my daily goal? And so that's called goal setting to the now. And it's a very powerful tool as long as you're constantly reminding yourself why you're doing this. When we forget what our big goal is, we sometimes settle for any of the other things that are there. And if you were paying attention during Power Up this morning, that quote of, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, that also has to do with goals and outcome. If you actually don't have a goal, then you'll be totally fine with whatever the sum is. If you have not set an example of what you want for yourself in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, someday, then you can look back at life 20, 30 years from now and either A, be upset that you didn't achieve what you wanted, but achieved a whole lot, or just be the collective sum of what happened. That's why sharing your goals with people, whether it's your coach, your spouse, partner, significant other, your children, it's so important that other people know your goals. And then you need to plan your check-in. So how often do you need to check in? What method of communication is ideal? How often do you need to check in with your coach or with your family? How often are you and your family talking about big goals? How often are you and your family talking about financial goals and hitting those goals? What does that conversation look like? How are you tweaking and adjusting? And then make a date. When and where will you meet to check in? So an example of this is Doug and I have a goal of becoming financially independent within the next 10 years. And what that means by being financially independent means that there will be enough money in the bank that technically I would never have to work again. And now when it's not retiring, right? Like it's not pina coladas on the beach, but what it means is that I will have security because we're working towards that goal of knowing that we could do whatever it is that we want to do because we've invested and we've put enough money away. Well, in order to do that, then we have to set goals on how much money needs to be in a portfolio 5 years from now or 10 years from now in order to hit it by 10. Where do we need to be on track 5 years from now in order to hit our 10-year goal? Where do we need to be 3 years, 1 year? Where do we need to be this month? And so from a time blocking perspective, every Sunday is when I go through and I actually look at our budget. How much did we invest within the last week? How much did we spend in the last week? Are we in alignment with our budget goal? And if we're not, where can we make some adjustments? And so our check-in, when we make a date, that date is every Sunday. We're having that conversation. What did we spend? What can we work on? Those types of things. That's a level of accountability. And the next phase from that would possibly be to consult with someone. Not really so much right now because we're in the wealth accumulation phase. right? It's not much of a question of what we need to do. It's just a matter of put the money away, shut up, don't touch it, don't do anything. It won't be until later that we'll start to bring in a financial advisor and a consultant to make sure that we are doing all of the things possibly that are tax advantaged, that we could be doing and moving forward from that perspective. And that's just one example. You can do this exact same thing for your health. So personally, for my health, I've not shared my goals for my health with anybody. And that's something that as I'm teaching this with you, I'm also writing down that I need to share those goals. What are my goals? What is my someday health goal? What is my 5-year health goal? What is my goal for my health this year? What is it that I'd like to do? Who am I sharing that with so that they know what my goal is? How often do I need to check in to make sure that I'm in alignment with those health goals? And then when and where will I meet so that I can check in and talk about that? And then, of course, self-discipline. Oh, I know I just need to do this thing to lose weight. I have to employ someone to be an accountability partner to ensure that I do what I need to do, right? What are some thoughts on accountability? I obviously live accountability all day, every day. It is kind of sort of my job, oddly enough. And so I'm curious, where in your life do you feel like you need more accountability? And maybe run them through. Let's do this as an example. We got a little bit of time here anyway. Let's take a few minutes. I'd like for you to establish just one goal. One goal, whether it's a short-term, medium, long-term. It could be about your health. It could be about your business. It could be about your financial well-being. I don't care what it's about. And so you're going to do 3 things. You're going to pick what's the goal. You're going to say how often you need to check in about it. So is it something that you do weekly? Is it something that you do monthly? Is it something that you do yearly? What's the method of communication? Are you going to document it for accountability on Facebook? Are you going to check in with someone where maybe you just have to take a picture, whether it's taking a picture of your alarm clock because you've got a goal of waking up at 5 a.m. every morning. So you want to text me your alarm clock at 5 a.m. Whatever it looks like, what's your form of communication for checking in? And then when and where will you make and meet for that check-in? So let's take about 3 to 5 minutes. Pick your goal. How often do you want to check in? And when and where are you going to check in? With whom, I guess, is also another one. And go ahead and put that in the chat box when you're ready. All right, so Linda said lead generation progress, daily check-in, 8 a.m. with Patrice. Okay, love that. Kelly Reynolds, I have a medium goal to pay off some debt. I will check in annually and we will meet with my financial advisor for this goal. Fantastic. If that works for you, Kelly, that's awesome. I am not that disciplined to go once a year for a check-in. And so, part of that, I'm not saying that everyone is unique, right? So do what works best for you, but also check in with yourself. That is, am I thinking about this annually? Am I thinking about this monthly? How often am I checking in quarterly, maybe, on realizing my goal of paying off that debt? And so always, especially with long-term goals, medium to long-term goals, making sure that we're checking in often so that we don't lose track of them, because we are simple-minded people where we can kind of be focused on something for one day or a couple days. Sometimes it's difficult for us to remember the framework for long-term. Kelly said, eat healthier and exercise, build business, pay off debt. Not sure who's best to check in with. Maybe for debt, my boyfriend's dad. He'll definitely hold me accountable. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you might find that the person who's holding you accountable for eating healthier and exercising might be different than the person who helps you pay off your debt. So you actually might have 3 people for the eating healthier and exercising, building your business and paying off debt. You might have 3 different accountability partners, and that's okay. Okay, I know that there's more of you putting more in the chat box. So go ahead and do that. We'll definitely review, but I also want us to keep moving on with the slides. So what are some things that have changed around your thinking or your mindset around this topic today? What was meaningful for you today about seeing the schedule, seeing time blocking, setting goals, being accountable? What are some of the things that were meaningful for you today or has changed your thinking out of today's class? I know it's Friday. We got 7 minutes left before our role plays and our lead generation. We absolutely, though, need to participate. Remember, how you participate in here is how you participate everywhere. So type. Kat said, I cannot be accountable to myself. I don't know if that's you just realizing this or if you've known this about yourself. So fantastic. Now that we understand that, it's about employing someone to help us be accountable, right? Absolutely. What else? Kelly says that she loves time blocking, or at least the concept of time blocking, and is looking forward to having structure and predictability as her base. Love that. Let's see. Kelly Reynolds says, I need to create a more strict schedule daily for myself for business. Yeah. And I want to be careful because some people find strict as maybe a negative or restrictive word. Sorry, had to. And so understanding that it's from the perspective that this is a commitment, right? So having a daily commitment calendar for yourself and for your business, I rather say that my calendar is committed than that my calendar is restrictive. And I'm being very purposeful with my time. Rachel Fenton said to share goals with people around you. She always struggles between letting the results do the talking or sharing with what I'm working on. I think you've convinced me otherwise. Yeah, I mean, listen, no one wants to know everything that you do every single day. And there is all those like be quiet and let the results speak for themselves. And you absolutely can. This goes back to the conversation earlier this week during Power Up of being intentional about your people, right? Your circle of five. And I know, Rachel and Kelly, you both have a wonderful partnership with one another, and there's a level of accountability there, sharing your goals. And I know that you do that with one another. You might have to employ some other people to ensure that you are letting them know what the goal is, right? And so if I say, hey, listen, Kat, I'm writing a book and I absolutely want you to be a part of that process. If you want to be a part of it, to help me make sure that my grammar is not deplorable, or that I'm having some issues with some play on words. Now that I'm putting that out into the world, it's now Kat gets to be a part of that journey if she chooses to be, right? Now, I'm not telling her that I want it done in 8 months, and so forget your day job. It's not that at all, but it's just simply saying, this is a goal that I have, and I realize that, or I have identified you as a person who can help me be accountable, right? That's a little bit different than like putting a post on Facebook so that the whole world can know. If that's not in your normal MO, Rachel, and I know that it's not, then you might have 2 or 3 really close people in your world that you can say, hey, listen, this is a goal of mine, and I've identified you as someone who can help me achieve that. Do you mind if I lean on you from time to time to ensure that I hit this goal? And if they are the people that should be in your life, they're going to say absolutely. And if they're people who should not be in your life, well, then they can self-select out. Linda said the benefit of actually time blocking and putting it on your calendar and doing it and the accountability. Absolutely. Kat says, I know it. I just don't want to admit it. Yeah, I know. And Linda said, being purposeful with your time. Absolutely, like that. Okay, great. What behaviors do you want to do? What actions do you want to take this week to help you, whether it's about being more accountable, about setting goals, about time blocking? What is your goal within the next week so that by next Friday, you can send to me, right? I'm going to hold each one of you accountable to this. So it's like, what is it? Is it time blocking your calendar? So you want to send me a screenshot of your calendar. Is it that you want to set 1, 2, 3, maybe one short-term, medium, and long-term goal, and you just want to go through that exercise of how often are you going to check in and how will I know? Whatever it is that you want to do, what action steps do you want to accomplish this next week to get you closer to your goal? Go ahead and put that in the chat box for me, please. Okay, so Kelly says that she wants to create a schedule for herself for the week. So how will I know that that is completed? Do you want to email it to me? Do you want to text it to me? Do you want to share it with everybody next Friday? Just kidding, you don't have to do that. Perfect. Let's see. Heather Kelly said, wow, I've got 3 Kellys on here this morning. I just realized that. Defining goals and who will hold me accountable. Awesome. Absolutely. Kelly or Rachel, I don't know which one. Time block your calendar. Rachel, hi Rachel. Time block your calendar, working to be in control of your day. By not controlling it, you will send me a screenshot. Love it. Kat, I'm waiting on yours. Linda said that she's going to be emailing me her goals and her accountability plan. Awesome. Love that. Anyone else? for the actions that they would like to take. All right, so our focus for the second half of our time, as you know, is we're going to be spending this time working on our daily success habits, making our 10 contacts, doing our script practice, doing those activities, and that starts with our script practice. So we're going to be taking the next 30 minutes. It is 10:01, so we're going to take between now and 10:30. Please get with your script partner. I'm going to go and find the script partner breakout so that we have them. If you are on here, that you're joining us today, you're not normally with us, and so your name is not a part of this document, please go ahead and just put, either you can click on the link that I'm about to put in the chat box with you so that you can add your name and add your phone number, or you can put in the chat box that you are looking for a script partner for today, and let's just make sure that everyone is there. Also, make sure that if you do put in the chat box that you are looking to get a script partner, please make sure that it's to all panelists and attendees. If you just send it to panelists, that's only going to go to me, and I'm not going to be much help for you for that. So please make sure that you're going through, clicking on that, seeing the split of where we are. Let me pull this up for you. And we will be back here at 10:30. I'll see you in a little bit. All right, let's come back together. What were some successes from your script practice? What did you work on? What script are you wanting to use as you go into your lead generation for the day? Go ahead and put that in the chat box for me now. Maybe let me ask a different question. What scripts are you currently you don't have that you would like to have more of? There is a new toolkit that I will be giving out on Monday. Since we start elementals on Monday, the next 2 weeks are all about the foundation pieces of your business. We've been focused on lead generation for the last 2 weeks. And so we're going to be focusing on the actual how to run your business over the course of the next 2 weeks. So are there any scripts that you don't currently have that you would like to make sure that we cover over the course of the next 2 weeks? Go ahead and put those in the chat box for me, please. Okay, a for sale by owner script. Absolutely, we can make sure that that happens. What else? All right, we're a lively bunch today, which means only one thing. You're just so excited to begin lead generating that you've already started it. So it is 10:32. Let's see, Linda said, any alternative scripts with being new to the area? I'm focusing on calling moms in my daughter's 8th grade class as their class is getting ready for graduation next week. Absolutely. I think talking about being new to the area is wonderful. And so we'll definitely work on some alternate scripts, or at least make sure that it is ask the question of yourself, what is it that out of the conversation I want them to be able to know about me and my business? Remember, scripts are nothing more than a series of questions to get us to the outcome that we desire. So first we have to know what's the end that we actually desire, right? Begin with the end in mind. So what is the outcome that you're looking for? But we'll definitely be able to either get you some alternative scripts or build an alternative script that works specifically for you, Linda. Absolutely. Okay, it is 10:33. Let's go ahead and spend the next hour. Nicole, absolutely. This toolkit that I'm going to be giving out on Monday for elementals will have scripts for sale by owners and expireds as well. We'll definitely have those for you. Okay, 10:33, we're going to take the next hour. We're going to come back because I'm probably going to talk for at least another minute. We're going to come back at 11:35. So we're going to spend a full hour doing our lead generation, write thank you cards, send private messages, send text messages, pick up the phone, do care calls, whatever it is that you'd like to do so that you can get in front of your people. We're going to do that for the next hour. We're going to come back at 10:35, talk about our successes, how many people we were able to make connections with doing the activities. And then we're going to spend some time on command, adding to your database, making sure that you feel comfortable with that before we move into next week. All right. So next hour, and I will see you at 11:35.